Step into a time machine. The 1980s were full of neon swimsuits, boomboxes, and vacation towns everyone seemed to flock to. These weren't just places on a map. They were the backdrop to summer road trips, family photos, and memories that smelled like salt water and sunscreen. Before we jump into this nostalgic trip down memory lane, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. It really helps keep these vintage memories alive. All right, buckle up. Let's rewind to the 1980s and visit America's most iconic vacation towns, the places where summer never really ended. Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts. There's something about Martha's Vineyard in the 1980s that felt almost dreamlike. The ferry ride over was part of the magic. Families standing at the rail, the salty wind in their hair, watching the island slowly appear on the horizon. Back then, the vineyard wasn't just a summer getaway. It was a rhythm of life. Days moved slower. Mornings began with coffee on wooden porches, afternoons with bikes gliding down quiet coastal roads, and evenings filled with laughter under strings of seaside lights. The towns, Edgartown, Oak Bluffs, Vineyard Haven, each had their own charm, like pages in a well-loved photo album. And even today, the same charm lingers. The beaches, the lighthouses, the scent of sea air after rain. They whisper stories from a simpler time. Martha's Vineyard still feels like a place where summer never truly ends, just pauses, waiting for you to return. Aspen, Colorado. If you close your eyes, you can almost feel it, the crisp mountain air of Aspen in the 1980s. Back then, it wasn't just a ski town. It was a symbol of glamour, freedom, and the quiet thrill of being alive. Snowflakes sparkled like stardust as people in colorful ski suits lined up for the lifts, laughing, holding mugs of hot cocoa that steamed against the cold. Celebrities mingled with locals in cozy lodges, their laughter echoing through the wooden halls, blending with the crackle of the fireplace. Aspen in the 80s was more than a place. It was a feeling. A perfect mix of snow and sophistication, where the world slowed down just enough for you to breathe, to dream, to feel infinite for a moment. And even now, as it's evolved into a hub for eco-travelers and art lovers, that same magic lingers in every snowflake, every sunset behind the Rockies, and every heartbeat that still remembers what it meant to be there. Lake Tahoe, California, and Nevada. Lake Tahoe in the 1980s, it was the kind of place that made you forget time existed. The mornings were quiet, with mist curling off the water and sunlight dancing on the lake like liquid glass. Families unpacked station wagons full of fishing rods, coolers, and Polaroid cameras, ready to make another summer memory. By afternoon, the air was alive with the hum of motorboats, kids jumping off docks, and the smell of sunscreen and pine trees blending together. Tahoe was more than just scenery. It was freedom. The mountains stood tall like silent witnesses to our laughter, our stories, our youth. And though the world has changed, Tahoe hasn't lost that magic. The same clear water still mirrors the sky, and when you stand by its edge today, you can almost hear the echoes of those 1980s summers, the ones that never truly ended. Key West, Florida. The kind of place that seemed to shimmer beneath the golden sun of the 1980s. Back then, it was where time slowed down and worries melted away with each ocean breeze. You could wander down Duval Street, the air thick with salt and laughter, neon signs glowing as musicians strummed their guitars into the warm night. Days were spent chasing sunsets at Mallory Square, where strangers became friends over the simple magic of the sea meeting the sky. It wasn't just a vacation spot. It was a feeling, a rhythm of life that pulsed through every pastel house and every sip of a cold drink by the shore. Even now, If you close your eyes, you can almost hear the faint hum of a boombox and the laughter of the 80s drifting across the waves. Nantucket, Massachusetts. In the 1980s, it felt like stepping into a postcard that had somehow come to life. Cobblestone streets lined with weathered gray cottages, soft ocean breezes carrying the scent of salt and wild roses. Families in pastel sweaters strolled along the wharf, ice cream in hand, while sailboats rocked gently against the horizon. It was where city life slowed down, a place for long talks on wraparound porches, sunburned noses, and dinners that lasted well past sunset. Nantucket wasn't loud or flashy. Its beauty was quiet, effortless, the kind that stayed with you. Even now, the island seems to hum with that same gentle rhythm, as if the 1980s never truly left its shores. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. If you grew up in the 1980s, you probably still remember Myrtle Beach, that endless stretch of golden sand where summer seemed to last forever. The air was filled with the faint scent of coconut and the salty breeze of the ocean, while laughter mingled with the sound of waves crashing against the shore. The boardwalk was always alive, arcade lights flickering in neon, kids chasing each other with melting ice cream cones, and the distant roar of a roller coaster cutting through the sea air. It was the kind of place where every sunset felt like a promise that tomorrow would be just as perfect. Myrtle Beach wasn't just a destination. It was a feeling, a slice of pure American summer that still echoes today in the rhythm of the waves meeting the shore. Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Back in the 1980s, it was the kind of place where family vacations felt like magic. The air smelled of pine and campfire smoke, and the hum of laughter echoed through the Smoky Mountain hills. You'd drive down winding roads with the windows rolled down, passing cozy log cabins and souvenir shops selling handmade fudge and wooden toys. Mornings started with mist rolling over the mountains, and nights ended with the glow of streetlights reflecting off the creek that ran through town. Gatlinburg wasn't just a destination. It was a feeling, a snapshot of simpler times when being together mattered most. Even now, it still carries that same small-town warmth, wrapped in the quiet majesty of the Smokies. Cape May, New Jersey. In the 1980s, it felt like stepping into a living postcard. Rows of pastel Victorian houses lined the quiet streets, their wraparound porches filled with the sound of rocking chairs and soft ocean breezes. Families would stroll down the boardwalk, ice cream in hand, as the scent of salt water and sunscreen lingered in the air. Days seemed to move slower there. Mornings spent collecting seashells, afternoons under striped umbrellas, and evenings watching the sun dip behind the lighthouse. Cape May wasn't just a beach town. It was a place where time itself seemed to pause, letting you breathe, laugh, and remember what summer was really about. Even now, it still holds that same timeless magic. Lake George, New York. There was something timeless about Lake George in the 1980s. The way the sunlight danced on the water, the soft hum of boats drifting by, and the laughter of families echoing across the Adirondack Hills. It wasn't just a lake. It was the heartbeat of summer. Mornings began with the smell of pancakes from lakeside cabins, and afternoons stretched into endless swims and picnics beneath tall pine trees. As dusk settled, the air cooled, fireflies appeared, and campfires flickered along the shore. Lake George was where moments slowed down, where people forgot the rush of the world and remembered what it felt like to simply be. Even today, that same spirit lingers in the quiet ripples of the lake, the crisp mountain air, and the gentle nostalgia that reminds you why so many still return, year after year. Santa Fe, New Mexico. Back in the 1980s, Santa Fe felt like stepping into another world, a place where art, history, and spirit blended beneath the endless New Mexico sky. The sun would rise over adobe rooftops, painting everything in shades of gold and red, while the scent of piñon smoke drifted through the crisp morning air. Artists lined the streets, their canvases alive with desert colors, and travelers wandered through quiet plazas, drawn by the sound of Spanish guitars echoing off old stone walls. Santa Fe wasn't just a city, it was a living canvas, a meeting place of cultures and stories that stretched back centuries. And even now, that same creative heartbeat still hums through its galleries, its markets, its food, and its people, reminding every visitor that some places don't just hold memories, they create them. Sedona, Arizona. There was something otherworldly about Sedona in the 1980s, a place where time seemed to slow and the world felt bigger, quieter, more mysterious. Driving through those winding desert roads, the red rocks rose like cathedrals against the blue sky, glowing warm in the setting sun. People came here not just for the view, but for the feeling, that quiet pull inside you when you stood beneath Bell Rock or watched the stars spill across the night. Sedona was where the restless found calm and the dreamers found meaning. The air carried a stillness you could almost hear, a kind of spiritual hush that made you feel connected to something ancient. Even today, that same magic lingers. The red rocks haven't changed, and neither has that sense of wonder that makes Sedona feel less like a destination and more like a discovery. Maybe that's what made the 1980s so special. It wasn't just about the places we visited, but the feeling they gave us. The laughter echoing down boardwalks, the glow of neon lights after sunset, the warmth of families together with no rush, no screens, just moments that felt endless. Those summer days may be gone, but their spirit still lingers in every ocean breeze, every mountain sunset, every familiar song on the radio. Because in the end, nostalgia isn't just about looking back. It's about remembering who we were when life felt simple, free, and beautifully alive.